Ladies and gentlemen, our next presentation will come from the Student Services Division. Now, what is Student Services? What is this division responsible for? Student Services Division, the Student Services Division is responsible for providing students with a wide range of services. Maybe if I can just enumerate a few, student funding, for example, where students go to receive assistance with funding. As you know, funding is an issue. That is the department, the division that is responsible for that. Student residence, we heard Prof. Mahwala talking about residences and provision of services in the student residences. And also student leadership as well, where they are responsible for running and coordinating student representative council elections and those kinds of things. And also student health, sports, as well as HIV and AIDS programs on campus. Now, that is in a nutshell what Student Services Division, the Student Services Division is responsible for. And we will hear from their presentation as to how they then deliver this in the context of our symposium. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll hand over to the Student Services Division. Thank you.
Good day. I am Mazibuko, Professor Mazibuko. I'm in the College of Humanities, but currently overseeing the Student Services Division as the interim senior director. Briefly, we are all familiar with the coronavirus disease 2019, or COVID-19 as it's generally known. This virus has spread worldwide, well, including South Africa. In March 2020, President Cyril Ramaphosa initiated the national lockdown with various restrictions. Currently, we are on level 3. This virus has impacted on higher education. Suddenly, we need to make quick adjustments, quick transitions to online learning. Traditional contact universities like ourselves had to move towards distance and digital learning. Obviously, we were not prepared, that is staff and students. We suddenly find ourselves highly dependent on online platforms, data computers and technology. The South African higher education sector is faced with new technological, financial, and collaborative challenges in the face of this pandemic. The digital divide and inequalities have been exposed, especially at previously disadvantaged universities. Many students are found not having the necessary technological resources to continue their studies or learning. Well, this might sound like it has affected only the teaching and learning aspects within higher education. However, we believe that student services as a sector is equally important. For me, student services is the other side of the coin with the academic project. Well, the aim of this presentation is to demonstrate how the student support sector, that is SSD at UKZN, has transitioned and supported the delivery of online services for students. The division itself is made, or it consists of 6 student services departments. We have the Department of Student Residence Affairs, commonly known as DSRA, very complex and demanding. Students funding, student sports and health, HIV and AIDS program, disability support unit, DSU. One of my colleagues will be making a presentation on DSU at this symposium, and student governance and leadership development, SGLD. Well, the goals is to meet expectations of current and future students by creating a platform for engagement, to create a conducive environment that promotes access, inclusion, enrich its values, and facilitate the success of staff and students. Thirdly, to provide effective co-curriculum programs and services that contribute to developing well-rounded and engaged graduates and alumni who are global citizens, to enhance the corporate identity of SSD and be a leader in student services in the African continent. Sounds ambitious. To enable strong corporate governance, leadership, and effective operational efficiencies through transformation, innovation, and agility in a changing higher education environment, and to foster national and international collaborations that are impactful for societal transformation. And on this one, we also work very closely with our corporate relations division. Well, we are making this presentation based on the template that consists of 5 qualitative questions, which were sent to each of the student service department at UKZN. There's the 5 questions: impact of COVID-19 on department, transition on to online service delivery, challenges experienced in the transition, measurement of student adoption, recommendations for improving online service or services. Starting with the impact of COVID-19 on SSD department. Since March, we've seen, I'll just talk briefly on the remote working environment. Since March 2020, staff in many departments have been working remotely. Service and communication with students, sponsors, and the university community generally has been through emails or virtual meetings. Secondly, student and staff interaction. The sudden change affected this interaction. This included interactions with key student-centered departments, for instance, our SRC, clubs and societies, residences, students with disabilities. What is in brackets are responses from the different departments. The departments also couldn't execute most of the yearly physical gatherings because of the directives and the legislative frameworks. Thirdly, resource access. Staff members experience difficulties in accessing resources such as printers and other necessities to conduct daily duties. Well, had to make some adjustments. The lockdown regulations made it difficult for the departments to carry out most of the programs, and migrating to the online or to online was something new. It was difficult to adjust, especially for the SGLD and sports departments as they carry out most of their duties physically. Supporting the transition from physical to online services to benefit students. Firstly, I'll just mention that for the first time, we had online SRC elections. This was the first time the department held SRC elections online, and it was an astounding success. 2, were to launch the inaugural Student Services Division website. The SSD Executive Office launched the inaugural SSD website, which provided online visibility, information, resources, and support to prospective and current students. DSRA, the Department of Student Residence Affairs, the DSRA ensured that there is Wi-Fi in all university-owned and leased residences. A LAN is being finalized on the Pietermaritzburg campus, thus enabling students to be able to have access in residences without having to go to campus. Of course, there are challenges, and DSRA is working on those challenges. The Student Funding Department ensured provisions of laptops to NSFAS-funded students through ICS, and were able to deliver laptops to students through the use of courier services for off-campus students. This enabled all students to receive their laptops, whether they were on campus or living away from campus. Online services, my colleague will elaborate on DSU, as I've indicated. From DSU, hosted online consultations utilizing virtual platforms such as Zoom conferencing and WhatsApp. The SGLD department adopted online student programs and is in engagement with the SRC as well as other departments regarding online counseling. I must say the student leadership, the SRC is very actively engaged in sharing ideas with the division and with the SGLD department in particular and the Executive Management Committee. Virtual meetings, all our meetings, departmental meetings and divisional meetings have moved towards online meeting platform, and we're able to foster some form of virtual participation to departmental activities. Main challenges in transitioning to new methods of online activities. Technical challenges. Several of the challenges faced by students in terms of access to data, network coverage, electricity access, and access to technology, that this include assistive technologies, became prevalent concerns to be addressed. This came out from the departments that I've just mentioned there. Response times. Staff response time was also affected as staff were still adjusting to a different work environment. Working time was ambiguous due to working from home. Most of the idle time between the time it takes to send emails and receive responses. Departmental duties such as transportation, programs, and projects were drastically slowed down as no physical interactions were allowed. Well, access anxiety and adjustment, access to the requisite equipment to provision services remotely and adapt to the digital framework implemented was the key challenge. It was difficult to adjust to remote working, and there was a lot of uncertainty around how the departments will move forward. Not all staff are accustomed to full technology mode of working, and there was significant training needed. There was a resistance from the side of the students as they were trying to adapt to the online operations. These were articulated by students at the teaching and learning task teams. But having said that, I must say that they are also making inputs to make it work. Physical documentation for critical processes. The main challenge was instances where document scanning was required and necessitated staff going into the office for this purpose. In instances where sponsors required physical copies of documents from students, the students had to send the documents to us by courier for on-campus receipt through registry or RMS. Where documents needed to be sent to sponsors in physical format, staff had to go to the campus to hand over items that required courier collection and delivery. And obviously, paper-based resources added cost of printing and transport. Measuring if students are adapting or enjoying the new online method of service delivery. Surveys and feedback. Two departments are using or are in the process of using online satisfaction surveys to measure student engagement and response with our services. Informal feedback, however, conveys that students are adapting to virtual services, but they still prefer physical. Well, it's understandable. We are social beings. Attendance to online programs. One department was experiencing low attendance to online programs. Students are used to physical programs. Most students still prefer physical interactions. It takes time getting service delivery using the online methods, that is adjusting to that. Response time. Students were satisfied with online services if the response time was satisfactory, that is within 48 hours. This avoided having to join queues as before the switch to online services. Access and performance. More students across all campuses were able to access the disability support service than previous years. when restricted by being physically present to provision instructions. The total of hours of virtual instruction provision eclipsed that of instruction provision on a contact basis. As I said earlier on, these are observations that were made by our colleagues in DSU. Resolving student issues, the SGLD, that is Student Governance and Leadership Development Department, experienced problems whereby students felt that it takes longer to resolve issues online. Recommendations or support for ongoing improvements of the online service experience. Training of staff. One recommendation is that there should be ongoing training of SSD staff to keep up to latest online norms and standards. Staff training on how to improve customer service in the online environment. Need for seminars for staff on time management in a remote working situation. Skills training workshops in targeted areas. I must say that we have found the seminars hosted by the UKZN Human Resources, Mr. Busisiwe Rambodu. These training sessions for staff on certain aspects of online environment and management of related stress in such an environment. They've been extremely helpful and appreciated by staff. There's also a greater need for institutional collaboration with and amongst departments such as UTLO, UTLO, ULPD, ICS, Library Services, and the LEN team. Funding and resources. Funding for the retention of staff who have developed key attributes and skills to adapt to the provision of the services at a higher level. Also, we're recommending more data should be provided for effective remote working. Lastly, adequate resourcing of the department with the requisite technology and skills to continuously develop and provide a higher level of service to transition towards the premier services for students globally. In conclusion, at UKZN, COVID-19 has impacted on student services sectors as it did in the academic sector. It is evident that the Student Services Division has made significant efforts in supporting the transition towards online service and learning. Key challenges revolve around access, resources, training, and adaptation to online service delivery. Measurements were done via attendance levels, feedback surveys, and academic performance of students for some departments. Key recommendations include more skills and training, collaboration, funding, and resources provision for the division. Thank you. Yabonga.